Want to appear for the CLAT exam because you have a good speed and a good understanding of English language? Well, let me burst the myth. It's not about how many questions you attempt, but the exam is about how many questions do you actually get correct. So, my name is Sheetal and you're watching NLTI. If you want to crack the CLAT exam with the best of the accuracy, this video is precisely for you. Without wasting a lot of time, I am going to give you some shortcuts, tips and tricks that are directly going to help you choose the correct questions in the CLAT exam English section and do them correctly. So if you want to learn about that, stay tuned. So it has been seen in the CLAT paper that usually there are 4 passages with total 24 questions. All the questions are tied to the passage. There are no standalone grammar question, which is a win-win situation for us. Because let's say if you get a standalone grammar question or a standalone vocabulary question, there is a question on antonym or on synonym, and you do not know the meaning of the word in question, the purpose is defeated. You would not be able to attempt that question. You will have to leave it rather than having negative marks for it. But the good thing is, in CLAT exam, all the questions come from the context. So even if I get a new word or a foreign word, I have the neighboring clues to guess the meaning of that word. So all the questions will be from passage. Repeated question types that have been seen in CLAT exams again and again is there are a lot of questions on main idea, not just the explicit or the direct one, but also indirect questions that come in the form of strengthening and weakening author's main idea. There are questions on inference, which I would call a little bit on the trickier side, but these are the only questions that are a little bit on the moderate to difficult level. The rest are manageable. You see meaning in the context. So vocab is tested in the contextual meaning, you can say, through the context. And specific details, that is factual question, which again I believe is a win-win situation for us. You would be able to do these questions by simply revisiting the passage and tracing that exact line or exact idea that is demanded by the question. So you would be able to do these. Now, how many questions should I attempt? Let's say I attempt 20 to 24 questions. Now think about this, everyone. If I get only 14 to 15 questions correct, this tells me either my comprehension is not correct, I did not understand what is the underlying meaning of the passage, I did not comprehend the passage correctly. Or second probability can be, I did understand the passage, but the option choices were so close that I could not guess the one. I was just about to tick B, but in the end, I selected A. B turned out to be the correct answer. Right? If this is the case, guys, you can say you have a weak elimination. The speed is fine. You're able to do all the 24 questions, but only getting 14 or 15 correct. It implies that you have a weak elimination. And if you attempt 20 to 24 questions correctly and you get 20 to 22 correct, this shows a strong precision. You know where all can you face traps in the option, how to close option choices would be a trap, and how would you eliminate one of those options on the basis of, let's say, extreme language, or maybe because the option was too broad. So there are a few tricks or the few areas that would definitely be wrong or that can be eliminated very easily. I am going to tell you what are those options. So I think by now we've understood that reading is not the issue if you are able to attempt all the 24 questions. Understanding is, or option selection is the problem. You are not able to follow the elimination method properly, right? So let's work on that. It's a brief of the previous year papers. I would want you people to have a quick look at the diverse subject areas which can be featured in reading comprehensions of English section. So now you see, there were questions from non-cooperation movement in CLAT 2026. The first passage you can say, was broadly from history. It talked about the significance of the non-cooperation movement and how it provided an impetus to the upcoming struggle for freedom, you can say. Next passage was on Harari, or the prehistoric humans. In a way, it was based on evolution, and there was a bit of philosophizing also in the passage. The third passage was based on democracy and third wave of democracy. Again, the passage was on evolution of democracy. How in 1214, Magna Carta, which is believed to be the origin or the genesis of democracy, was actually not for everyone. It did not extend the rights to everyone. So then how did democracy, evolve? Was all about this particular passage. The fourth passage was political or analytical, or you can say it was based on the contemporary issue. So it was discussing the current issue at hand. For example, you can expect to have a passage on Russia-Ukraine war, you can have a passage on Iran-Israel war, and how is it impacting the Indian economy or the political dynamics throughout the world, just to give you a gist. So I see from the 2026 paper that they make it a combination of not just diverse subject area, but also some passages are from the contemporary pieces of work, some are from history. This was seen in 2026. If I now come down to 2024, there was a passage on the fiction Fire on the Mountain, a novel by Anita Desai. So the subject area was literature. An excerpt from her novel was given, and then there were some questions from it. It was a short passage, I can say, and relatively a manageable one, right? It is not heavy with economics jargon. It's not heavy with philosophical jargon. It was an interesting read, I would say. Second passage was again an English literature overview, which traced literary works from Shakespeare to Austen, and a few other were also mentioned. Again, from literature, but it was a little broad if I compare it to the first passage. The third passage was based on social or policy commentary, you can say. So it was from sociology. The fourth passage, contemporary analytical passage. So again, do you see that? A recurrence of the contemporary passage in 2024 as well was seen. Now, if I talk about the 2023 paper, everyone, the first passage was from Provincial Reader Sumana Roy. It was an abstract essay written by Sumana Roy. The topic or the subject area was Provincial Reader. Second was Khiladi Excavation Debate. So it featured history and culture. Third was on internet identity. Again, it was a social commentary, or it was analytical in its nature, written by Jia. Fourth was on contemporary analytical passage. So again, contemporary issue. So contemporary issue, and again a contemporary issue. So one thing, now I have a bird's eye perspective that I can expect a literary passage, that is fictional passage. I can expect some non-fictional passages which are talking about, let's say, philosophy, talking about history, talking about polity or society. And in the end, I can also expect something from the contemporary issue or the editorial issue of newspaper or popular magazines. So I hope it gave you an idea about it. So actual passage types, pattern and the skills that are tested, I believe it's very important for us to understand it in order to be completely prepared when we attempt the questions. So history tests your facts and your ability to understand the inference, that is implied meaning or a hidden conclusion in the context. Mostly history passages are replete with facts, so you can expect there a factual question from there. Abstract passages. Abstract means ideas that are philosophical, that are insightful, about which you need to think. They are not concrete or tangible objects that we are discussing. These are the ideas that we are discussing. They often give you questions on tone and again inference, that is hidden meaning. So when I am being analytical, insightful, and I'm discussing theories with you, I am of course gonna reflect some kind of tone over there about my preferences or the things that I criticize. From literature, it can be based on character and again mood of the author towards the character, towards the situation. Another word for mood can be tone. When you have passages that are based on society or some social issue, mostly it will be argumentative. So there is this one critiques argument and then certain counter arguments and again arguments. So key insight from this is you are not being tested on English. You are being tested on how quickly you can adapt your reading according to the need of every passage. Some passages which are scientific, let's say, would be factual. They are gonna have literal meaning. Whatever is given there, it means the same thing. But on the other hand, literary passages and philosophical passages can be figurative. There are always underlying meanings and hidden inferences that you would have to find out. If you have a clarity of what are the subject areas of the passage and you are well aware of your capabilities, the streams that you have had, the interest that you have in reading, you would be able to choose the right passage to start with. So if the starting is confident, you are pretty much going to attempt all the questions correctly. So 60 to 70% passages are non-fiction. Theme can be politics, society, economy, ethics, and literature. And often you can say an overshadowing of different areas on each other, an amalgamation of all the different areas. Okay, so how to train for main idea? Let's now tackle each and every question type one by one. I will discuss the main idea question, what should you do with it without wasting a lot of time, right? Just the important tips. I'll discuss inference question with you, I'll discuss tone question with you, and I will discuss vocabulary, that is contextual vocabulary question with you. For main idea, if I take example of the non-cooperation movement, first passage of CLAT 2026 English section, it had a main idea question in it. So the options, if I tell you about, one of the option had this key phrase, that is non-cooperation movement by Gandhi was a complete success, whereas the passage was definitely praising the momentous and the impetus non-cooperation movement provided to the future movements, future struggles, but it was not so extreme that I would call it a complete success. In the last few lines of the last paragraph, there was a little exception to the complete success of the movement. So it was a trap. It sounds strong. British feared Gandhi was also one of the option. It sounds a little dramatic and maybe a little impulsive that I would want to go with. But again, we have to rely on the facts given by the author strictly. And he did not say that the Britishers feared from Gandhi. So it sounds relevant, but again, factually, there was no ground for this option. We needed to eliminate these two. Correct option, on the other hand, was balanced in its language and choice of word. It was evidence-based. Evidence-based is strictly relied on the facts that were given in the passage. So this would be often seen that when we are confused about eliminating the wrong option choices, factually a lot of options would be correct, but they would not be broad enough or justifying enough for the whole passage, or they might use extreme language which author did not use, or they might include an external idea which is not among the facts given in the passage. So what actually went wrong with this question for a lot of students is they picked the strongest sounding idea, which was it was a complete success. But you need to, again, you need to be very careful while understanding, comprehending the passage. Did author state it? Was he strong about it? No, he was not. Ignore passage tone. People ignored the tone of the passage, which was balanced, which was analytical, which was descriptive, and it was not extreme that I would say Britishers feared Gandhi. Right? So this is one example for you people, which showcased a lot of traps and which a lot of students got wrong. So now remember this main idea. What most of the passage supports would be the correct answer, and not what sounds impactful or impulsive or very strong. I'll go with the similar tone, I'll go with the similar keywords. For the inference, I can say whenever there is may lead to or phrases like these in the passage, I need to go with similar kind of language in the options. So the student's mistake here would be they extend the logic. Now you know inferences are hidden meanings. These are implicit idea. So because they are hidden, we often go with the wrong option choices, which turn out to be out of context. You cannot extend the logic of the passage. Inferences are hidden, but they strictly rely on the given facts. Adds certainty. If the author did not add certainty, you see author's choice of word, it may lead to. He's playing very safe and balanced here. You cannot go with certain and again absolute or extreme options for inference. Rule for inferences, it is a controlled extension. Why am I calling it extension? Because inferences are hidden or external information in that way. It's not straight away given to me on a platter in the passage. It is something that I deduce. I draw from my understanding. So you should have a controlled extension while choosing inference, and should not rely on your imagination, your feeling, your subjectivity, your individuality, what you individually feel is correct. No, you have to be very objective, have a bird's eye perspective, rely on the truth of author, rely on his facts, and then answer the inference questions. So with inference, we then move on to tone questions. The first level of difficulty is understanding the passage properly. If the author, let's say, is criticizing something, he has used ample of negative adjectives within the passage. Now you need to see, is he strongly criticizing something or is he analytically criticizing something? It would help you to choose the right option choices, or at least eliminate the extreme option choices. So often the student's choice would be emotional word, which becomes too extreme. Unless until author was very strong about it, we will not go with strong words. Or they go with a very dramatic tone, which is again not supported by the passage. The correct answer would feature again, guys, mild and a controlled or a balanced or an argumentative or an analytical tone, most probably. So correct answers are usually less intense, and we become a little dramatic attempting these questions. We need to avoid it. And they are more neutral. Tone is rarely extreme in CLAT exam. You get excerpts from some wonderful analytical pieces of editorial or fiction or non-fiction, which would hardly be very extreme in their choice of words, and they would be nuanced, they would be a little complicated in comprehension. Right? So avoid this trap, everyone. If I talk about contextual meaning, so yes, we do get some vocabulary questions from CLAT, but the good news is they are always dependent upon their neighboring words for their meaning. So guess from memory is the error we all make. There is a word, desert. I know its meaning. It is an arid area, but the passage says, my friends deserted me. It is used as a verb, which means they abandoned me. Do not make this mistake of treating the vocabulary question as individual questions. Whenever you see a word in the question of vocabulary, please go back to the sentence where it was used and make sure through the meaning of the whole sentence that the meaning in your mind that you had matches with it. So use vocab knowledge. Again, another mistake you do. So memorized meaning would be wrong here, that you already know. And contextual meaning, which you cross-checked from the sentence, from the passage, would be correct. Always remember these. These are not standalone question. these come from context. You need to refer back to the context. You can have a negative mark here if you're not aware of it. So rule is, meaning comes from context, not from memory, not from the word that you already know. Memory definitely would help you, but context would verify it, guys. So be careful of it. All right, next is passage attempting strategy. So how should we attempt the passages? There are 4 to 5 passages, ma'am. Which one should I start with? So attempt in order is one of the mistakes we all make. We simply sit for the exam and we start from the first passage itself and we go in a queue. Unless until we are too good with the diverse subject areas, we should not make this mistake. Have a glimpse of all the passages, a bird's eye perspective. Read the initial few lines, or let's say only the first sentence of each passage to, understand and decide, oh, this passage is from my subject area, it is manageable, and start with that. Start with the easiest. If you are able to save time in the initial few passages, you would be able to invest that time in difficult passages which are probably new subject areas for you. Do not go by the first question strategy. Go by your preferences, by your intelligence choice, I would say. Your intelligent choice, right? So step-by-step action would be, skim the first line of all passages, start with the easiest one, leave the abstract, philosophical or literary passages for later on. When you know you have ample time now, you've already attempted 2 passages, now I can devote my attention and my time to it. Right? So it locks early accuracy because what you've done initially turns out to be correct. And it saves time for harder passages. So best source to build CLAT level exam. What should be the sources? Now that I know what type of passages I can see, what type of traps I can see, and how I should go about the whole paper, where should I prepare from? After a glimpse of the type of passages that come in CLAT exam, I can confidently say you can go and read the editorial section or the opposite of the editorial section of the Hindu newspaper. It gives you a glimpse, an idea, and understanding of what is going on in the current. And these are not straightaway news. They are opinions. They are analysis of a person. So it has a personal touch. It becomes an important area to extract a passage from for the CLAT people, you can say. So they help you to develop argumentative skills. They are argument heavy, and they have a balanced tone. The Indian Express, explained and editorial, go for both type of passages. They have a clear structure, a little bit easier than Hindu. If you are starting it, you might start it with Indian Express, eventually moving on to the Hindu. And they give you the breakdown of the whole issue. You get a clarity of that current affair, you can say. Now you can go with the Aeon passages. If you simply type a topic, let's say existentialism is a philosophical topic I read somewhere, and I want to read about it. I will simply Google essays on existentialism on Aeon, AEON. So again, it's a website which gives you wonderful, nuanced, complicated, higher level passages. If you believe you have reached this level, you may have a look at the passages of this website. So they give you a lot of abstract essays, because otherwise you don't see abstract essays in the newspaper editorial. So if you want to familiarize yourself with the abstract essays and you want to ace tone and deep inference questions, you can refer to Aeon or scroll.in. You can also refer to scroll.in for the passages. Smithsonian Magazine is another wonderful resource. Narrative passages with analytical skills can be featured here. The Guardian's opinion section is again something you can refer back to go through the passages or go through issues or editorials. They have a strong tone contrast, and again they help you in building argumentative understanding of the passages. I hope the Sources that you can refer to are clear. You may take a screenshot of it, everyone. Now, best sources to build CLAT level reading can be how to read. Well, identify the central argument of whatever you are reading. So when you are in your preparatory stage for these 7 to 8 months, you can develop this habit of writing down a concise statement that can justify the whole passage that you have just read. This is known as identifying the main idea, gist, or crux of the passage. Ask yourself, whatever I have read, can I write it in a sentence or two? That would be your main idea. Next is always be careful of the tone and the tone shift. So I see there were a lot of positive adjectives initially in the passage because author was simply describing a concept. But later on I started seeing words like but, conversely, or yet, which show me a shift in the tone, a contrast in the tone. So always be very careful if there is a tone shift from neutral to critical or from simple descriptive to now analytical. It helps you to answer the tone question. Ignore examples, data, facts. Well, I'm not saying that don't read them, but remember this, guys, when it comes to main idea and a lot of other question, nobody is checking your capacity of rote learning or memorizing the facts. Facts, data, examples are always given in the passage to further explain the claim of author, further elaborate on the main idea of the author, which he already has given. Now he is further explaining it to you. So data, statistics and examples can be referred to for a better understanding, but they would not be substantial or they would not be featured in the main idea. So if you get options on main idea which have one example that was given in the second line of the second passage, well, factually it is correct, but it is too narrow again to justify the whole passage. It only had a little mention in the second passage. It cannot be main idea. Right? So notice how paragraph connects. Are there causal relationships? Was there a cause initially and the later paragraphs are discussing the effects? So it's important that you break down the whole passage into smaller chunks and have a bird's eye perspective and view. Okay, first paragraph just gave me introduction, second gave me causes, and the third gave me effects or conclusion. If you do it that way, you know about the whole skeleton and the structure of the passage. It would be easier to refer back when you are answering the questions. So do not read for information, try or do not read to remember the information or facts. So it is a test of your understanding and not of your memory, trust me, guys. So now if we talk about what should you be doing during the mocks, you will be giving ample mocks before your actual exam. It's a real-time simulation for you people to have a feel. First thing I would suggest is take the mocks very seriously. Take it as the real situation where you're sitting for the paper. If you have that feel and the fear, you've already experienced it, it would be easier in the CLAT exam for you people to manage. Second thing, do a thorough analysis of your mocks once you are done with it and ask yourself, why did I get these questions wrong? Re-attempt the paper and see, are you still getting those questions wrong? If not, the problem was you were doing it too fast without understanding or registering everything. Right? So start with the easiest, as you already know. While reading, focus on the argument, tone, and not the details like examples or facts. Stuck between two options, recheck the tone and scope and go by elimination of the wrong one. Go with one which sounds more correct or more appropriate. Now remember this, every passage you should attempt under 7 minutes because you would not be able to reach or have a look at every paragraph, every passage if you're not doing it within 7 minutes. So for now, initially, let's say your speed is of 12 minutes, it's perfectly fine. Bring it down to 10 and eventually to 7. 8 to 7. If you are unsure about a question and you are not even able to eliminate any of the one or two options, the options are so close and so tricky that you're not even able to eliminate two options, it's a red signal for you. It's a no-go for you. You cannot go for these questions. Play safe here. When you have easily eliminated two options and left with two, that is still doable. But if all the four are confusing, do not go for these questions according to me. Our target is to attempt 20 to 22 questions correctly with high accuracy, and not to do all the questions irrespective of whether you are even confident about the question or not. If you are not confident about any of the question, do not go for it. So finally, I would say an error analysis after giving the mock is very important. You need to understand that when it's on main idea, do not go with very broad options. When it's on inference, do not go with added logic that extends what was given in the passage. When the question is on tone, do not pick the extreme language words. When it is on meaning, do not go on guessed word and completely rely on the context of the word wherever it was used. So resolve the same passage as I already told you and check if you make the same mistakes. Guys, if you are making the same mistakes, then you need to see it's your comprehension that is the problem. Concept is the issue and not the speed. Improve your concept. To thoroughly go through different sort of concepts or subject areas, it's important that you diversify your subject area, you practice a lot of passages, you read from wide sources like the ones I mentioned, and you will see, not in a day or two, but probably in a month or two, you will be in a better position and you will be getting more passages correct. So time and pressure issue is something that you need to tackle with. You have to maintain both, that is speed, and second is accuracy. So that would be all. I hope these concise tips help you to attempt the paper correctly and score highest with the best of the accuracy. Thank you everyone.